All right, recap. I should probably format all of this and put it in announcements as well. But I just kind of like, addressing you guys in video form. Let's try to move into short stories. We'll do a week, maybe two, maybe a week and a half with some short stories. We'll discuss those because I really want to move into Game of Thrones or the selection of novels that I provided for you. We'll talk about the novel and its general format, and I'll discuss Game of Thrones a little bit. And if I have a lot of people reading a certain novel, I'll also discuss it. And the questions that I ask in the final will kind of be tailored to all of those novels. You'll be able to choose which ones you respond to. So as long as you read one of them, you'll be fine. Now, I feel bad about only devoting like two novels. There you go. 2 videos to Walt Whitman. He's incredibly important. And in a lot of ways, Whitman defined American bravado, American pride, the poetic sentiment of America as a beautiful and a special place. I would even go so far as to say that when people talk about American exceptionalism, when we talk about America as like one of the greatest countries on planet Earth, a lot of that could probably be brought back to Whitman and his poetic depiction of the land and the spirit that infused its people. I mean, he is part and parcel very much wedded to the concept of American literature. He's so unbelievably influential. And I just straight up don't like the guy. Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird? I mean, I'm the literature teacher. I'm allowed to have opinions, but in this one, I can't emphasize enough that he is awesome, and I'm just kind of a moron. Now, all I really want to do is read to you a couple more excerpts from his work. What I think his magnum opus was, rather one of the most popular poems he ever wrote. I'll say for last. Right now, I want to demonstrate just how wild and uncontained his poetry was. This is Song of Myself. Song of Myself is gigantic. And usually people only talk about the first few verses because I believe this is in Leaves of Grass. And Leaves of Grass is a poem that's like huge. The amount of stuff he injected into Leaves of Grass is just insane. And it's almost like, everything's bigger in Texas. Well, the poetry's bigger in America. So let me just read a couple of lines to this, give you a sense of the epicness and the grandiosity. I celebrate myself and sing myself. I also think very highly of myself. I'm sorry. Damn it, I gotta be nice. And what I assume you shall assume. For every atom belonging to me as good belongs to you. I loaf and invite my soul. I lean and loaf at my ease, observing a spear of summer grass. I do like the comparisons between all this epic imagery and then something as subtle and something as simple as a leaf of grass, the spears of grass. That's kind of interesting. My tongue, every atom of my blood, formed from this soil, this air. Almost a magical sensibility of America the place. Born here of parents, born here from parents the same, and their parents the same. Whitman's American stock, right? He was born here. He's really proclaiming the fact that he is born of this soil. He is, what some people would have referred to themselves as native, although he's not. But the fact that he was born here is a great, thing of distinction for him. We've 100% left the colonial era now. Both here of parents born here from parents the same and their parents the same. So this is 2 generations. I now, 37 years old, in perfect health begin, hoping to cease not till death. I mean, that actually kind of seems self-explanatory, but we'll move on. Creeds and schools in abeyance. Even I don't know what abeyance means. Retiring back a while, sufficed at what they are, but never forgotten. I harbor for good or bad. I permit to speak at every hazard. Nature without check, with original energy. This speaks very much of a transcendental attitude. The fact he will labor for good or bad. He is what he is, right? I mean, his passions are moving him and motivating him into particular areas, and so he will go in either direction according to his whim. This is like, the idea of being seduced by real, true freedom. Very American. Houses and rooms are full of perfumes. The shelves are crowded with perfumes. Now we're getting a very specific image. I breathe the fragrance myself and know it and like it. The distillation would intoxicate me also, but I shall not let it. That's kind of interesting. He talks a lot of intoxication, and his images overwhelm us so many different ways. But in this case, he's describing all these intoxicating things, these perfumes, and yet he's like, I will not let it carry me away. The atmosphere is not a perfume. It has no taste of the distillation. It is odorless. It is for my mouth forever. I am in love with it. I will go to the bank by the wood and become undisguised and naked. I am mad for it to be in contact with me. This guy really loves America. He's like, the air has no taste, it has no flavor, and yet I shall be naked so that I may fully immerse myself in it. It's like a James Bond villain or something, but I will say this, it's very motivated with passion. This guy loves him some America, right? Let's do one more stanza. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I am kind of having fun with this. The smoke of my own breath echoes, ripples, buzzed whispers, love roots, silk thread, crotch and vine. Woo! My respiration and inspiration, the beating of my heart, the passing of blood and air through my lungs, the sniff of green leaves and dry leaves, and the shore, and of the shore and dark-colored sea rocks, and of hay in the barn, the sound of the belched words of my voice loosed to the eddies of the wind. That's kind of cool. A few light kisses, a few embraces, a reaching around of arms. The play of shine and shade on the trees as the supple boughs wag. The delight alone in the rush of the streets or along the fields and hillsides. The feeling of health, the full noon trill, the song of me rising from bed and meeting the sun. He really likes life, right? It's pretty high on it. Pretty cool. I mean, okay, fine. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, especially when you read it with passion, when you read it with intensity. Again, a lot of people don't know how to read poetry that way. And I've had a lot of practice reading poetry that I can kind of interpret it as I go along and kind of feel the emotion, that I can kind of assume that there are places where you kind of feel like you should slow down a bit and other places where you should kind of speed up. That takes a lot of reading poetry to kind of identify those things, and it also kind of takes a lot of writing poetry to be able to do that. That's where the appreciation comes from, that even though he's not particularly of my preference and style of poetry, I'm still looking at this and I'm like, all right, sure, you're a titan, you're a god, whatever. Now, this poem I actually really hate. There it is. This poem, I think I hate it because it was in the Dead Poets Society, and I absolutely despised the Dead Poets Society. It was a very hackneyed plot, and this poem, I don't know. Like I said, I'm a literature teacher. I'm allowed to have my opinions, but this poem drives me up the flipping wall, right? So, this poem uses language that will go over a lot of people's head. It's "Oh, Captain, my Captain." A lot of people kind of think it's like some type of weird nautical poem. It's not. It's about Abraham Lincoln. He's pretty clear that it's about Abraham Lincoln. But open up the poem. Look it up in Google and just open it up and look at it real quick. It's funny because it's kind of exacerbated by the fact when you look at the poem itself, it looks like three little boats. Isn't that weird? It's like three little sailboats. So, yeah, I don't know if he meant to do that. I'd almost think that he had to. The appearance of the verse here is extremely important. That's an aspect of free verse. Write that down. Free verse is very important. Free verse is when poetry kind of goes every single direction, but the directions that it goes in are justified. All right, here we go. Oh, Captain, my Captain. Oh, Captain, my Captain, our fearful trip is done. The ship has weathered every rack. The prize we sought is won. The part is near, the bells I hear, the people all exulting, while follow eyes the steady keel, the vessel grim and daring. But oh, heart, 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 oh, the bleeding drops of red, where on the deck my captain lies, fallen cold and dead. Now, there is actually quite a meter here that as you read it, you can feel the pulse and you can feel the beat, and you kind of fall into it as you read it. And again, you could read this poem and miss the fact that it's about Lincoln, because it does hold true to the nautical theme. Let's keep going. O captain, my captain, rise up and hear the bells. Rise up, for you the flag is flung, for you the bugle trills. For you bouquets and ribboned wreaths, for you the shores are crowding. For you they call, the swaying mass, their eager faces turning. Hear, captain, dear father, this arm beneath your head, it is some dream that on the deck you've fallen cold and dead. In the aftermath of the Civil War, this would have been pretty friggin' clear, because we're shocked at the death of this captain, and Lincoln's death would have been fresh in everybody's mind, so people would have kind of more naturally caught on to the fact that it was Lincoln. My captain does not answer, his lips are pale and still. My father does not feel my arm, he has no pulse nor will. The ship is anchored safe and sound, its voyage closed and done. From fearful trip the victor ship comes in with object won. Exult, O shores, and ring, O bells, but I with mournful dread walk the deck, my captain lies fallen cold and dead. Now, the celebration, the mirth, all of this is going on in the fact that the person who led them has fallen. And again, it's possible to read this poem from a very literal standpoint and to think that it's like trying to show us some type of returning ship, right? But that's not really what would have happened in the context. I'm employing a little bit of historicism here. His context at this point would have been the death of Lincoln. That's why we can kind of assume he's talking about Abe Lincoln, right? He may have actually confirmed it at some point. Fun poem. I mean, that one's kind of nice. I don't know why I kind of like the metered aspect of it. That one kind of reminds me of the meter of Dickinson that has its tightness, but it also is loose enough that it feels a little bit more playful, even though it's about a dead dude. I also really like the imagery, the contrast between the fact that there's so much mirth and joy, and he is walking around with mournful tread. That's a nice juxtaposition. That's something that kind of makes it hit a little harder, rather than just saying, I'm sad, I'm sad. It's like, all these idiots over here are so happy, and I get it, but Dad's dead. Well, why did he call him father? That's an interesting question. Why did he call him father? It's one of the things that throws readers off the first time they read "Oh Captain, My Captain." Is like, it's about his dad. No, it means it in a kind of metaphorical sense, that this is his father in a spiritual perspective. And again, all of this is all heavily symbolic. So the use of symbolism here, pretty cool. Not as literal as most of the stuff where he's talking about stripping down naked and feeling that nice, awesome American air. More to come. Hopefully next week we'll be able to get through The Awakening and some of the short stories, being ambitious. Hang on for the ride.